Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's split is getting messy. After 19 years of marriage, Kidman filed for divorce yesterday in Nashville, citing irreconcilable differences.
Hollywood loves its myths. Two beautiful people meet, fall in love, and become a brand instead of a marriage. Unfortunately, even myths have expiration dates. Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman were once cast as the flawless poster couple, a union polished enough to outshine the usual Hollywood chaos around them. Yet nearly 2 decades later, Keith has finally chosen to tell the real story behind their divorce, and what he has to say flips the script on whatever assumptions most people had in mind. Join us as we take a look at this once glorious Hollywood ship and what choppy waves sank it. For nearly 2 decades, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman were Hollywood's most unlikely constant. One was a country superstar who grew up strumming guitars in Australia before chasing dreams in Nashville. The other was an Academy Award-winning actress, the picture of elegance who had conquered Hollywood after breaking free from a very public first marriage. Their worlds couldn't have been more different, yet together they seemed to form something whole. When they married, many skeptics assumed it would be another short-lived celebrity romance, bound to collapse under the weight of career pressures, distance, and fame. Yet year after year, they defied the odds. They became a fixture of red carpets, industry galas, and family outings that showcased not just glamour, but warmth. Nicole described Keith as her safe harbor, while Keith often credited her with saving his life during his battles with addiction. For fans, they weren't just another Hollywood couple. They were proof that love could last in the limelight. That's why the announcement of their divorce in late 2025 hit differently.
Keith Urban, who instigated the split, but it's Nicole Kidman who's officially ended it. The actress filing for divorce, saying they couldn't patch up their differences. US correspondent Rob Scott has the details.
After 19 years of marriage, the couple confirmed they were ending their relationship. It wasn't just a breakup. A long-standing myth had crumbled. When Keith Urban finally spoke candidly about why the marriage ended, the explanation raised some eyebrows. Before talking about the end of their journey, let's take a real look at their journey together. The fairy tale beginning. Nicole Kidman first met Keith Urban in January 2005 at a G-Day LA event celebrating Australians in Hollywood. She later admitted she felt an instant electric connection when she met him, though he didn't call her until 4 months later. Once he did, the romance quickly took off.
Wedding of the year, event of the decade, celebrity coupling of the millennium, whatever you want to call it, Keith and Nicole are getting hitched.
By June 2006, they were married in a candlelit ceremony at a church in Sydney, surrounded by family, friends, and a global media frenzy. For Nicole, who had endured a painful divorce from Tom Cruise in 2001, this second chance at love felt redemptive. For Keith, who was riding the crest of a country music career, but struggling privately with substance abuse, she represented stability and unconditional support. Almost immediately, however, their marriage faced trials. Just months after their wedding, he entered rehab for alcohol addiction. She stood firmly by his side, even canceling work commitments to support him. Keith would later describe her as his rock in interviews, explaining how her faith in him gave him the strength to pursue sobriety. Those early events seemed to set the tone for the rest of their marriage. Over the next decade, they built a life between the Nashville country scene and Hollywood's global stage. They welcomed 2 daughters, Sunday Rose in 2008 and Faith Margaret in 2010, raising them largely away from the cameras. Unlike many celebrity parents, they resisted the temptation to let their children into media highlights. Professionally, they also grew. Nicole earned critical acclaim in projects like Rabbit Hole, Lion, and the HBO hit Big Little Lies. Keith, meanwhile, became one of country music's most consistent hitmakers, with albums like Fuse and Ripcord cementing his crossover appeal. He also served as a judge on American Idol, further broadening his fan base. Despite their busy schedules, the couple appeared united. Nicole often flew to meet Keith while he was touring, while he was frequently seen cheering her on at film premieres. They made deliberate efforts to show up for one another, In interviews, they frequently emphasized that their relationship came before their careers. Nicole once said, "We have a very simple motto. We don't go more than 3 weeks without seeing each other." But behind the smiles and affectionate sound bites, cracks slowly formed. Life in 2 high-pressure careers meant extended separations. His tours often kept him away for months, while her film projects took her across the globe for long shoots. The 3-week rule became harder to enforce as their daughters grew older and the demands of their professions intensified. By the late 2010s, subtle signs of strain began surfacing. In 2017, she admitted in an interview that she sometimes longed for a more ordinary life with him, where they could have simple routines instead of constantly juggling airports, stages, and red carpets. Around the same time, he acknowledged that marriage required a lot of work, hinting that fame made intimacy harder to maintain. Though they always presented a united front in public, the whispers never completely faded. Gossip magazines speculated about time spent apart, while fans dissected body language on red carpets. Still, the couple pushed back against rumors, insisting their marriage remained strong. The final years of their marriage showed how even the most resilient partnerships can reach a breaking point. By 2021, Nicole was deeply immersed in international film projects, while Keith resumed global touring after the pandemic pause. They spent increasing amounts of time in separate countries. Although they always reunited for holidays and family milestones, those intervals grew shorter and less frequent.
You know, family and breakfast together and dinner together. I don't need much.
By mid-2023, tabloids noted the couple hadn't been photographed together for months, sparking rumors of tension. While such speculation wasn't new, something felt different this time. He appeared at award shows alone, while she attended film festivals without him. The absence was noticeable. In September 2025, she formally filed for divorce in Nashville, citing irreconcilable differences. Now what was suspected had been confirmed publicly, breaking nearly 2 decades of silence about their private struggles. In Hollywood, divorce is so common it often barely registers as news, but this split got immediate attention and some keen observers could quickly piece a few reasons why. The chilling effects of work and distance on love. When the confirmation about the end of his marriage to Nicole Kidman came out, the public braced for scandal. After all, Hollywood divorces are rarely free from betrayal, affairs, or messy financial battles, but his words seemed to steer the story in a very different direction, admitting that the love that bound them together had shifted over time, and neither of them could deny it any longer, suggested a relationship that had gradually grown cold over the years and finally died without real remorse. This candid reflection reshaped the narrative. Their divorce wasn't about scandal. It was about 2 people who had spent nearly 2 decades balancing personal love against professional chaos and grown apart within that balancing act. The first test of their bond started with his substance use problems. Keith's journey with addiction was no secret, and when he entered rehab just months after their wedding, people wondered if that's break them up. After all, for most newlyweds, that kind of crisis would be destabilizing enough to shatter the foundation. Nicole later recalled how terrifying those days were. "I thought I had lost him, but I also knew that if I left, he might never come back to himself. So I stayed." Her support during his recovery was often cited as proof of their unshakable bond, and indeed, it forged their relationship.
A partner who gets you and you get him, it's very safe, it's very healing.
He credited her with saving his life, while she described his recovery as one of the bravest things she had ever witnessed. Keith would eventually say years later that the shadow of those struggles never completely disappeared. He said, "Even when you're sober, you carry the scars of who you were before. And sometimes, those scars show up in ways that affect the people you love." It wasn't addiction itself that broke them. He remained sober, but the guilt he carried for the toll it had taken in their early years haunted him. That sense of owing more than he could ever repay weighed heavily on his identity as a husband. If addiction was their first trial, distance was their longest one. His career meant constant touring. Her career meant filming on location around the world. While the 3-week rule they created was designed to keep them connected, it became harder to sustain as their daughters grew older and their professional obligations expanded. Nicole once confessed to often wishing for more of the simple things like making dinner together and having breakfast as a family. Those missed moments began to accumulate. While they always reunited with warmth, the reality was that they spent much of their marriage living in separate worlds. He admitted that even when together, the time was often compressed, rushed, and dictated by schedules rather than natural rhythms. While the split between them has only now been officially confirmed and articulated with a reason for the split, her voice has always provided clues about how she saw their marriage. In interviews, she often described him as her soulmate and emphasized how much stability he brought into her life after her divorce from Tom Cruise. But even within those declarations of love, there were hints of longing for something simpler. In 2019, while filming in Europe, she admitted in a magazine profile that she hated long stretches away from Nashville.
You just don't stop, Mama. You do hit after hit after hit. Congratulations. Career achievement tonight at the Hollywood Film Award.
Explaining how she wished to be more grounded with her husband and family. That sense of being adrift became more pronounced in recent years as her work commitments grew and Keith's touring resumed. While they always insisted on making it work, the building effect of distance appears to have worn them down. Friends close to Nicole have described her as heartbroken, but not surprised. Since Keith decided to live separately, she had been struggling to keep things together, but it seemed that it wasn't enough.
And we just saw him get a platinum plaque for that, I think, yesterday.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. Isn't that amazing?
Right.
Okay, I have a fan question for you from Twitter.
While it's true that they had started living apart since the early summer of 2020, it's Nicole official filing for divorce that drew extra attention to the split, the divorce papers, and the rumor mill. When Nicole Kidman walked into a Nashville courthouse on the 30th of September 2025, she carried more than a stack of papers. With her filing for divorce after 19 years of marriage, a story that once seemed untouchable had reached its legal and emotional conclusion. The documents, stamped and submitted, stripped their larger-than-life romance down to the sterile language of irreconcilable differences. No scandalous footnotes, no fiery accusations, just a quiet declaration that a partnership had run its course. The filing confirmed what fans had begun whispering about over the summer, that the long-running fairy tale was unraveling in real time. Her request was straightforward. She sought to be the primary residential parent for their daughters, Sunday Rose, who was now 17, and Faith Margaret, who was now 14. The court paperwork detailed a custody plan, a roadmap to balance parenting while living separate lives. There were no requests for spousal support, no battle over assets. Each would keep what they had earned in their own name. In that sense, the divorce was designed to be clean, perhaps even merciful, in contrast to the brutal public implosions Hollywood so often feeds on. Still, simplicity on paper rarely translates into simplicity in life. Divorce is always a storm, even when conducted with dignity, and into that storm rushed something inevitable: rumors. As her filing made headlines, another story emerged almost in tandem, one that painted Keith Urban not as a grieving husband, but as a man already in the orbit of someone new. The tabloids had pounced as some cited sources close to the couple who suggested he had found companionship in a younger woman, possibly someone connected to the music industry. Others framed it more sharply, saying Nicole didn't dispute that he was with someone else, but still felt blindsided by how quickly life had shifted. The gossip was oxygen to a media machine hungry for drama. Headlines suggested betrayal, while others speculated on the identity of the mystery woman. Fans picked sides online, either defending Keith as a man moving on or sympathizing with Nicole as the one left to process the sudden change. Yet beneath the frenzy, one critical fact remained, and it's that no one has confirmed anything yet. Keith Urban himself had stayed silent on the matter, neither denying nor acknowledging the rumors. No photographs surfaced, no public appearances with another woman, no hard evidence beyond the word of unnamed insiders. For all the noise, the story is still rooted in suggestion rather than proof. The timing of the rumors added another layer of complexity. To some, his supposed new relationship feels like a betrayal, a confirmation that their marriage had ended not in quiet acceptance, but in abandonment. To others, it seemed more like the natural next step, a man no longer tied by legal or emotional obligation, beginning to chart a new life. Her divorce papers gave no hint that infidelity had played a role. The legal grounds were irreconcilable differences, not misconduct. That distinction matters. If cheating had been central to the divorce, it could have altered not just the narrative, but the negotiations over custody, assets, and public perception. Instead, the documents presented a more mundane truth of two people who simply couldn't continue the partnership they had built, no matter how long or how deeply they had tried. This doesn't erase the sting for Nicole, who reportedly felt shocked and blindsided by the whole thing when whispers of his possible new romance surfaced.
Every show I've done since then, I have so many people come out to me asking me if it's coming back, is it coming back, so I think a lot of people are happy.
After almost 2 decades together, the idea of her husband moving on so soon and so publicly is a painful twist, even if it carries no legal weight. Interestingly, while there's no evidence of scandal involved in their split, there was a rumor of infidelity sometimes at the start of their relationship. In 2006, just as Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman's whirlwind romance was set to result in a highly anticipated wedding, a scandalous allegation emerged that briefly threatened to derail their fairy tale love story before it even started. A then 23-year-old model and part-time assistant named Amanda Wyatt claimed that she and Keith had been romantically involved for more than 2 years, dating back to 2004 when they first met at the Tin Roof, a popular Nashville bar. According to her, the relationship quickly grew serious enough that she occasionally stayed at his Brentwood rental home and was even introduced to his parents during the holidays, an act that lent credibility to her claims that their connection was far more significant than a casual fling. She alleged that their relationship continued as late as May 2006, just 1 month before his wedding to Nicole. Tabloids jumped on the story, framing it as evidence of a double life. As the rising country superstar preparing to marry an Oscar-winning actress while simultaneously entangled in a secret romance, this was juicy info they could milk. The timing could not have been more explosive, feeding public speculation about her awareness of the situation and his ability to commit. Yet neither Keith Urban nor Nicole Kidman publicly addressed Amanda's claims, choosing instead to remain silent. And within months, the story faded into the background. In the years that followed, it was largely overshadowed by his very public struggle with addiction and his eventual path to sobriety, battles that seemed to interest fans more than an unverified accusation of infidelity. Now some recall those events, not because of the infidelity suggested, but the narrative of a man who seems to move from past entanglements. Though a new relationship is yet to be confirmed, it certainly doesn't stop imaginations from running wild, and the lack of comments from him isn't helping either. It's important to note that rumors often swirl around every high-profile separation, and their accuracy varies wildly. In Hollywood, divorce is rarely just divorce. It becomes a spectacle, an entertainment product in itself. The public isn't content with irreconcilable differences. They want villains and heroes, scandal and betrayal. A simple truth feels unsatisfying. Keith's silence on the matter may be his way of avoiding that trap. By refusing to confirm or deny, he shields himself from further speculation, even as the silence fuels it. Nicole, meanwhile, associée, has handled the split with characteristic dignity, letting the paperwork speak for her rather than trading barbs through the press. Together, they seem determined to maintain some level of privacy, even as the narrative spins beyond their control. What the divorce filings reveal, above all else, is a desire for stability, especially for their daughters. Her request to be the primary residential parent shows her intent to anchor their family in their new reality. His agreement to the terms shows a willingness to cooperate, even as his personal life becomes tabloid fodder. The possibility of a new partner for him doesn't erase the marriage that came before it, nor does it rewrite the years of shared history. For Nicole, the chapter closing is painful but necessary. For Keith, the chapter beginning, whether with someone new or simply on his own, remains undefined. For the public, watching from afar, the story is just one of Hollywood's big breakups, albeit less dramatic than most. What do you think of their seemingly clean split and the recent rumors? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. To enjoy more exciting videos, click play on the video on your screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new video is released.